Hello and welcome to yet another episode of philosophizing about stupid shit on this earth. And today we're going to talk about humans versus animals. Now, this is quite an interesting topic to me. I'm going to start with a short story of how this got to me, this idea to talk about this in the first place. Well, first of all, if I go back to how I was when I was younger, I know I wasn't such a big fan of animals. I don't know why. It's just like I never really saw them as on my level, to be quite frank with you. I had this wrong opinion of thinking that I'm more of an animal. Unfortunately, this is a thing we have fought for thousands and thousands of years until science came along, and now suddenly we see that we are animals as well, just different kinds. This would be quite a difficult topic for me to talk about because in today's day and age, even with the amount of people that believe in the evolution theory and the amount of evidence there is towards it, especially in my country. I live in a very atheist country. Most of the people living in my country, they don't believe in God. It's not popular to believe in God. I remember in my middle school class there was this one guy and he was Christian, and that was quite strange. Like that to me back then, even though I now do believe in God, I still am not a fan of what church is doing. But he was a very devout Christian, and nobody could understand that. It was quite weird. Now that I think back to it, he was quite a nice person. But what to me is quite interesting that in today's day and age, people mostly we've kind of forgotten God. Think of the amount of people that go to church, right? That's a rare occurrence nowadays. I heard Louis C.K. say, if you go to a church now, it's like going to a skate park. Like this used to be something. This used to be a place people would actually go to. It's not like that nowadays, and so the more strange it seems to me that in the day and age where everyone is kind of for the evolution theory, everyone is still kind of thinking that we're above animals, which is kind of strange. I cannot really wrap my head around it, because if you do believe in the evolution theory, then that literally supports the theory that humans are animals as well, right? So we should, in a way, be supportive towards other animals. I don't know if it has to do like with xenophobia or human ego or racism even. Just think about it this way. If theoretically we're just a big part of the animal race, there are many races of humans, just like there are many races of dogs, right? But then if you think about the whole race of animals, are we then racist towards animals as well? So it's quite an interesting topic, and another thing that got me onto this theme was I talked with my girlfriend about her cat. She for one, she really likes animals, but I remember her saying to me that it's still just a cat. The life of the cat is not that complex of a human. Now that to me was quite interesting, because I was, well, first of all, I was quite disappointed because I thought she would be above all this, but then I was like, okay, you know what, I shouldn't be mad at her. It's quite reasonable to think that. It's quite reasonable to think that we are much more than animals. So I want to tackle this topic in my presentation nowadays to see that are we really much more than animals? So, first of all, let's get to the very biggest question we have. We'll start off with it and we'll finish with it. Are humans animals? If we look at the terms of biology and evolution, then clearly it's just saying yes, we're Homo sapiens, we're part of the big animal race. Now, on the other hand, if you look at spirituality and our human ego, we don't really see ourselves as animals. And there's quite a contradiction right there. You can even see it in the fucking dictionary. They cannot even agree on it. Because you have one definition that says that an animal is something that lives and moves, but it's not human. Okay? And then the right next definition is that anything that lives and moves, including people. So which is it? Which one is it? It's quite popular for us to say that if you mention the word animal, you don't really imagine a human being. You imagine something that's other than human. But then, if you really think about it, we are animals. It's quite strange. I don't even know what to compare it. I'll try and find an example. So I tried to look at the internet and really think about some different example where we say something. Now, for example, let's say fish. Now, if I were to say to you to name 10 fish, you wouldn't off the bat think about, let's say, a shark. Or, for example, a planet. If I were to say a planet, you would first name Mars, Jupiter, and then you would think the planet Earth, right? But eventually you would get to it. Now, think about the example. If you were to say someone, name 10 animals. Now, who in the top 10 would write a human? Like, most people wouldn't do that. Most people would just go with like dog, zebra, cat, and they would try to think of 10 animals. So it's quite interesting from a linguistic standpoint that we kind of, I don't know if it's caused by the human ego or by some people genuinely believing that we are somewhat different from the other animals. It's quite interesting. It's quite unexplainable for me. I think to me personally, my theory is that the human ego has the biggest part in this. The way we kind of rule the earth in our own little bubble we live in. Now, this is a very complicated topic because in the movie Matrix, there was this one scene where Agent Smith, he criticized the human race. He said something about us being a bacteria or whatever. I'll try and find the clip.
I'd like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species. I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply, and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And the only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
It's quite interesting to think about how we have colonized the Earth, and we kind of claim it as our own. Now, the thing is, okay, I'm not really a vegetarian. I'm not really supporting this whole thing because at the end of the day, eating meat from a health standpoint is quite important. I'm pretty sure as technology moves on, hopefully, we won't really have that many slaughterhouses. There will still have to be someone keeping things intact, you know, like animals not over mating, not there being like too many crows or something. It's very difficult. I'm not really a biology guy, but it was quite an interesting topic for me to research. So right off the bat, when we look at this whole topic of humans versus animals, you can see that there's kind of an ego play at hand, where we already think that we are something more than animals because we can think about all this. We have like this highest level of consciousness. We can rationally think about stuff, and we can work together and work on projects. This is really what sets us apart. Now, next up, I want to have a look at human superpowers. What I consider that what most people would think. To me personally, the only thing that really, to me, is a superpower that we have, that is what's keeping us as the guardians of this planet, even though I wouldn't really say we were quite good at that, is the rational thinking. But this goes hand in hand with all of these. So first of all, we have abstract thinking. We can think about abstract ideas, which is me talking about this. I can think about this. I can talk about this. And then that leads to science, where it can lead to many discoveries. Where think about Albert Einstein, how he think about the time is relative. He think about an abstract idea of a train riding fast in the cosmic space or something. Like how do you even think of that, right? It's quite insane. And then you have art, many artists. There's this one amazing David Bowie quote where he said that he knows many amazing painters where they paint something and then they name it afterwards. So it's not even the act of being able to paint. I'm not quite sure if animals can learn that. Maybe somehow, some way you can teach a chimpanzee to paint really amazing paintings. But the biggest skill we have in art is to be able to conceive it, to consume it with our own eyes, with our own heart. You can just kind of spread it around there. You can just kind of do a painting and then describe it, name it afterwards. That's quite the whole point of art. It's not even the act of creating art, it's more the consuming of the art. And next up, we have technology. It's what leads to abstract thinking because think of all the amazing ideas that are bound to happen with the years. So for example, teleportation. I don't know if that will ever happen, but just the whole fact that we can think about it allows us to even be able to create it. If we were never able to have this abstract thinking, we wouldn't have all this technology we have nowadays. Like how do motherfuckers create Bluetooth out of rocks and wood? I have no fucking idea, but we somehow did it. So next up, we have language. Now, language to us is a very important thing. The reason I chose this picture, because you can kind of see all of this. You have the abstract thinking to create this festival. In case you're not watching, you're just listening, there's a picture of a Chinese dragon festival or whatever it is. So you have to have the abstract thinking to think of all this bullshit, to create all this lore, all this mystical dragon stuff. Then you have the language, which are the Chinese people. They communicate in Chinese, right? And then the culture. You're creating a culture, identity, community. Now, what culture is, we'll get to it. First, let's talk about language. So, language to us is a form of communication. There's a theory in evolution that it was just created for survival purposes, which makes perfect sense. And I for one, really do believe in evolution theory. It makes most sense to me. It's tough to say. I don't want to take it as granted. I know what I don't like about the evolution theory is the fact that people don't even view it as a theory nowadays. They view it as a fact. It's quite difficult for me to grasp all of it just happening for like no reason. I don't really believe in that. Like I believe in evolution theory. I just don't believe in the fact that it was just like all a coincidence. Now, that's very debatable and we can talk about it in a different video. That's not what we're talking about today. So language, that leads to communication and civilization. We can act civilized in front of one each other, and that's also thanks to culture. We have these cultural standards, etiquette, identity, community, traditions. Now, those are really things that you kind of do. There's no really survival purpose behind it, if you think about it. Now, I think, in a way, if you really think about it, it's kind of a curse to have all this abstract and rational thinking. Because if we were just to survive on the planet Earth, we could just do the bare minimum. Eat what you need every day and sleep. Just like pandas. But I think it's exactly because we have this rational thinking, we kind of have to learn how to psychologically survive. That's why we live in a system where money is a thing, for one example, because it makes more sense to psychologically have a goal to survive towards. That's why you have careers. That's why you have marriages. That's why you have all of this. That's why you have culture in the first place. So, with that said, this is what could be viewed as the human superpowers. We have all of these in a very, very advanced level. We are amazing at abstract thinking. Our language is quite complex. And we have an insane amount of cultural traditions and expectations and manners. Now, what people get wrong, and what I want to show you with this is, let's head into the next slide. I want to show you abstract thinking in animals. Now, this to me, I did some research with this. I couldn't include, in case you're not watching, there's a picture of a crow with a stick in its mouth, and a picture of a monkey looking inside a mirror. I couldn't include the picture of the elephant rituals. The reason for that being is because it's quite explicit and not friendly for content purposes. Now, what I'm trying to show you with this slide is that there have been cases of abstract thinking in animals. Now, first example I have here is crow tools. Now, crows are known to be very smart and intelligent and quite complex animals. They, for one, have abstract thinking. In some way, they have to have it because they have been seen grabbing a stick, like a small, tiny wooden stick. Then they kind of curve it at the end to create a hook. And then they grab something with it. That's insane if you think about it. Now, obviously, is it at the level of our abstract thinking where we create cars or planes? No. But is it abstract thinking? Yes, it is. So the whole point of this is not to say that animals are somewhat comparable to us in these three superpowers we have. Sure, we are better at them. But I want to rid you of the stigma that we are somewhat more than animals in these manners. They still have these, just not as complex, but they do still have it. So would you look down on a human child just because, like, it has all the things you have, just not as developed and not as complex? Now, would you look down on it and think it's something less? Well, obviously you shouldn't. Next up, we have elephant rituals. Now, the whole point of the elephant rituals is that somehow elephants, I have read, I couldn't even believe it. Like all of these, I had to kind of fact check debate, and apparently it's all true. Elephants apparently have a concept and they know about death. There have been cases of elephants standing in circles around the dead elephant body, around like the bones and whatever rotting corpse, and them looking at it and mourning it. Now, if that isn't abstract thinking, I don't know what is. And lastly, self-recognition. There have been many cases of animals looking into a mirror and kind of recognizing itself. To me, I used to think when I was younger, and I don't know if everybody thinks that. I like for some reason I didn't even think that animals are conscious. I don't know why. It just seems to me like I still these days I look at some humans and I think, damn, they don't seem conscious to me either. It's so strange. It's quite a deterministic approach, and in that case, I would have to believe that I am not conscious either myself, which, well, I'd even argue I used to be for some years. I used to really not think about life this way, and then now I've become a more conscious being where I really tend to think about all this. So it's quite interesting to really think about the fact that animals are in their own little spaces, in their own little lives. Now, it may not be as complex, as rational as we have it, but they're still living beings. They still have all these qualities. So next up, we talked about language. So what, in terms of language, I have found that animals have. Now, obviously, animals have their own ways of communicating. First one that seemed really interesting to me is dolphin vocalizations. Now, they somehow they have these sounds. I'm not really sure how it works or whatnot. So apparently, the way they whistle, they have like signature names for each dolphin. They have like specific little whistles to call another dolphin. It's quite interesting to see how complex these animals even can be compared to us. Now, like if you look at it from an outside perspective and just look at a dolphin swimming in the water, he's doing whatever, you might think, oh, this is just a fish. Okay, it's not really. But then when you really deeply investigate them and look at them, and fortunately we have scientists that do that, then you just kind of see that, oh, they're actually quite similar to us. They're actually not that different at all. Like the dolphin is behaving exactly like you would in a dolphin body. He has his little name for a dolphin. He's just swimming around, eating. He's making jokes now and then. How is he different from a human? Next up, parrots understanding color. So there was this one story of a parrot. Now, parrots typically, they kind of just repeat whatever you say. I'm pretty sure they don't know shit about what you understand. But apparently there was a case of a parrot understanding color. He had a concept of seeing color and understanding what it is and then naming it. That's a combination of abstract thinking and language, because he was able to put the abstract thinking into the language, which is even more complex. And then last form of language, I have bees dancing, which to me is another form of language, just to show the fact that our human language, using vocalizations, using our chords or whatever, our mouth, I don't know how the fuck it works, using sound that travels into the ear of another human being. Now, there's other forms of language. Bees, they dance, apparently. I'm not really sure of the details. I was also quite taken away by the fact that they do this. It's quite interesting. But apparently, they do a little like dance. They do a non-verbal communication just to show where, for example, a flower is or where the other bee should fly or whatever. It's quite interesting to see that animals, they can kind of conceive non-verbal communication just like we can. And maybe they have it even more complex than us. For example, in this example, with the bees, it seems that they would have a more detailed concept of the non-verbal language. Next up, we talked about culture. And just like we have culture, animals have culture as well. So, in case you didn't know, there are quite bizarre examples. And I think the craziest one is the whale example I have here, called song spreading. To me, it's quite... It's quite shocking to hear. So apparently, what whales do, they do like a song. Now, I'm not really sure why they do it. It's kind of, no matter how hard you try to understand it and research it, I don't think you can like really grasp the concept. Like, I was on a walk with a dog not so long ago. It was like 2 days ago, and I asked AI, like, why do dogs even bark and what is this guy saying? And it kind of told me that what it somewhat means. but it's just a form of communication. You cannot really understand it. Like you would have to really immerse yourself into the language. So to me, it's the same with this whale example. So apparently whales, if you want to know more, search this up. I couldn't really grasp the concept. So apparently whales, they do a song. They do like a sound. They do like a whatever. I'm not sure how it sounds, right? Now, what happens in nature with whales is that one whale does this, a whale swimming in the ocean, right? And it does this sound. And what the other whales do is that they hear this and they repeat it, and then apparently it spreads across the whole ocean. I'm not sure how wide it can reach, but I'm pretty sure it can reach like a fucking virus. Now that's kind of a culture in a way. It's just like how our traditions and our songs spread. One person starts with it and it either, it catches on or it doesn't. Now, why do they do this? Not really sure, but if you really think about it, like, why do we do whatever we do with our traditions? So next up, chimpanzee cultures. This is a more of a practical example, but it's still quite interesting to see that researchers have found that in different groups of chimpanzees, they had their own gestures and tools they used. This is more of a cultural example towards how we, for example, eat food with a fork and a knife. Now, you wouldn't really think of that. You were taught that. Now, it's the same with the chimpanzees. Let's say a chimpanzee didn't know any of these gestures, any of these tools. He was in one group that doesn't know any of it, then he would not know it because it's not genetically in him. But then he goes into a different group where they know it, they teach him that, and he goes back to that first group, and he could potentially teach them that. And that's the whole point of culture. It's quite fascinating to see that animals have it as well. And next up, bird culture. In terms of their singing, when they do their singing, then apparently they have dialects. So let's say a bird is from Ohio, he would sing a bit differently. He would have like an accent compared to a bird that's in New York. That's another example of culture. So how your surrounding affects you. It's amazing to see that when you really dive into it deeply, you kind of notice how similar we are in animals. Like how they have all these little things, and you wouldn't even think of that. Like I wouldn't even imagine that chimpanzees have their own little gestures and that another group doesn't understand. So next up, the next slide that we have over here is animal superpowers. Just like we have our abstract thinking, our culture, our language, we have things that aren't as complex as animals have them. Now, these happen to be the more traditional senses we have. The most popular and most primitive example I could come up with is dogs' smell. The fact that dogs can smell 1,000 times better. I did some research on what even consists of, and apparently dogs can smell that you have cancer. Now, unfortunately, they don't really have a way to kind of tell you that you have cancer. It would be amazing, but just think of how insane it is. Like, I can barely smell anything. Like when I really try to think about my sense of smell, it's so primitive. I can just smell whatever is right in front of me. Dogs, they can smell emotions. They can smell. Like, just think about the fact that they can smell emotions. How fucking insane is that? Now that I mentioned the cancer example, there was one case. This is a completely different story, unrelated to the topic, but I'm still gonna tell it anyways. My middle school or high school teacher, she was like the main teacher in my class. She was the supervisor of my class. I don't know if you have that in other countries. And she told us on a meeting after we graduated that she has this another class now. She's the supervisor of that class, and she's really pro giving blood. So she managed to tell the students to go and give blood. Now they did that, and one of the students, they found out, thanks to the blood result, that he has cancer. And this is just completely unrelated. I just kind of thought of it now. So I'd recommend you all go give blood. Maybe you'll find out something you don't want to know. So next up, we have owl's sense of hearing. This is also another example that is insane to see how more complex an animal's sense can be. Now this example is about owls hearing. Apparently by the way the wind flies towards them, they can hear that there is a mouse under snow in front of them. I don't know how it works. I cannot even imagine how it works, but I'm pretty sure the owls, they don't even know either how it works. They just kind of know it. This is another insane example. of how much more naturally complex animals can be. I'm pretty sure if our technology keeps getting better and better, we can kind of get to these amounts of experience, or get to this insane sense. It is inspired by nature. It's insane that the fact that nature can inspire us to even have these ideas. It's quite cool. And another part of this is bee vision. This is something we actually use already. The vision they have, it's the ultraviolet light. And as you might know, detectives, I'm not really sure if it's just in movies. I'm not an expert on this, but they use this ultraviolet light to see fingertips and blood spots and whatever. Well, bees, they have this naturally. They see these little spots on flowers where they kind of see the pollen, if it's there or not. I'm once again not sure of the details, but it's another example of how animals can be much more complex than us. And then you really think about this. So we have these superpowers of the abstract thinking. We have this way more complex. But dead animals, dogs, they have a more complex smell. So we're measuring ourselves as something superior to animals, but we're measuring ourselves due to our own standards. If we were to measure who can smell cancer, well, I'm pretty sure dogs would win all the way. Yeah, sure, a man can come along and tell you all about life, but a dog will come along and smell your crotch and know that your balls about to fall off. Which one is more valuable? Do you want your balls smelled, or someone to talk shit about your life? Really think about that. So next up, for us, it is quite unimaginable some forms of life nature has to offer. First one is echolocation. Now, this is quite different from the owl's sense of hearing. Owls, they still see, but they don't really operate with sound. It is quite a popular philosophical fact that reality is just perception. We all know that. Well, imagine if you wouldn't perceive whatever we see in front of us with just lights reflecting and whatever we're seeing. I'm not even sure what fucking light is, right? Like, what do we know? Well, imagine if you would perceive it completely different. Now, the most popular example of this is echolocation. It's the fact that bats, they kind of hear sound reflecting, and the way it reflects from walls and whatnot, they can map the terrain. So they don't really see it, they just hear the sound, the way the sound reflects, and it's so unimaginable. Like, that's the best way to describe it. I also read somewhere that birds, they see the magnetic poles of the planet Earth, and it's like, what? They see the what? How does it even work? And the thing is, they don't even know that. They just kind of see something they see, and they just fly towards it. It's like whatever we see. We don't really think. You don't really think about what you're seeing. You don't really think about whether you're seeing light, reflections, or whatever. You're just kind of seeing what's in front of you, right? So it's quite unimaginable to kind of try and imagine that there's completely different ways of living life. And I think that is the complexity of animals, and that is the whole point why we shouldn't look down upon them. We shouldn't treat them as lesser just because we can. I think because you can do something, there is the more reason to not do it. It's a very simple example with because you can jerk off all day. Well, that's the more reason to not do it. it's quite a logical example, right? So next up we have shark electric fields. Now this example I cannot even wrap my head around. Apparently sharks, they see the electric fields of beings, and they can somehow spot a prey that's hiding behind an obstacle because they can see the electric. I have no idea how it works. I cannot even begin to describe it to you, but that's the whole point of it. Next up with the octopus brains. I don't know if you have heard of it, but octopus apparently has like 8 brains, and there's like a tiny brain at the end of one of his tentacles. How the fuck does that work? I have no fucking idea. Like, is it like a conscious hand? I was not so long ago, like 4 days ago, I was in a zoo and I saw an elephant using its little nose or whatever you call it. I'm not sure what it's called, like, but the fucking tentacle he has on his nose. What is it called in English? I'm not sure. But it's insane to think about the fact that imagine your nose if it would be like a hand and the nose at the same time. You can just like smell with your hand. It's so crazy. And for them, it's not. It's just they were born that way, right? Like you don't even think about it. Just like we don't even think about the way we live. So once you really dive deep into all of this, you kind of see that we are from one point so different from all animals, but we have our own little world we live in. They have their own little worlds. What I really don't like is the way we kind of prove we are not animals. And this is one of the worst human traits ever. And I am one of the biggest critics of this. I hate it. I do live in it, and it's kind of hard because you're kind of culturally programmed to live in it. I'm pretty sure it even has to do with our genetics and our human egos. But it's so annoying to see how much some people go far to prove that they are not animals. And some people, they even go all the way across, and they try to prove that they are not only they are not animals, they are not even human. They're something more than human. One of the biggest examples of this is fashion for me. Is like I was walking in Prague the other day, and I was walking on the street that's called Paris Street. I'm not sure what it's. Yeah, it's called like Paris Street, and there's all these shops like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and I'm just thinking, like, how can you even do that? Like, honestly, like imagine having so much money that you can just, like, for you to buy a jacket is like buying a candy bar. So you have to buy a jacket that is at the cost of an average monthly wage. Now, money is an excellent tool, and I think if you look at a toolsmith or a handy guy, the way he uses his tools, you can judge the kind of man he is. If you look at the way people, they use the money they have, well, you can just kind of see what kind of people they are. Now, I'm not just saying, okay, you should have your fashions. I'm not saying, I don't just want to throw fashion out the window. I know it's pretty, but I don't like when it's kind of proving that you are something more. And it's so hard for me to not see that in so many fashion people. It's so fucking hard. I'm quite against that. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. Another thing is etiquette. Now, etiquette is it's kind of agreeing, being kind towards each other and being whatever. But if you really think about it, it's so fake. Like, just shaking someone's hand, we're kind of culturally taught to do that, or eating with some kind of etiquette. To me, it can get to a point where it's so retarded. Like, I work in a bar, and when I see someone drinking their scotch with like their 2 pieces of ice in it, and they're like shaking it around and doing it, like, I'm like, why? It's like I feel autistic because it just doesn't make sense to me. I might be autistic, I don't know, but I'm just like, why? Like, the other day I was driving in my car and I saw a Lamborghini. How much does that cost? An insane amount of money. I just kind of look at it and I go, how can you do that? Like, how can you just do that? Like, even if I were to have this amount of money, how can you just do that? It's so bizarre. It's so, I don't want to say evil. You have your own right to spend your money and do whatever and feel important after drinking a $100 little fucking piece of beverage. That's the size of 4 centiliters. Sure, you have every right to do that. It just doesn't make sense to me personally. The next up is fine dining. Oh my god. When you really become conscious and see that we are an animal, it's quite sad for me to admit this, but I was eating food today, and like, I woke up and I wrote a list of responsibilities I have to do today. Like, I have to clean my house, I have to do this, I have to wash the clothes, right? And then I almost wrote down I have to eat. It's so strange. It's so strange for me to see people going to these fine dining restaurants and have their little tiny portions and like, this is delicate. Bro, I don't know. Like, I can kind of get it. And I do want to try it someday. Go into like a fancy restaurant where you have like 10 little small portions. I kind of get it, I guess. But it also kind of seems like trying to prove to yourself that you are not an animal. I'm pretty sure people don't like consciously do it with this intent. Like, I'm gonna go there just to prove to myself I'm something more. You kind of subconsciously do this. And it's quite sad. That makes it sadder. That's why you cannot even be angry at these people. Because they do it subconsciously. Like, there are some manners we humans have that just make me so disappointed. Honestly disappointed. So, next up, on the other hand, We have human animal-like behavior. In case you're wondering, well, I'm not an animal. I do nothing that's animalistic. Yeah, you do. You have your needs. You have your desires. First up is sex. I am not a person that watches porn, and I resist to jerk off. It's quite hard some days. But I do have sex quite regularly, and I do enjoy it. But to me to say that it's not an animalistic behavior, it completely is. Like, it so much is. Now, that's not to say that it's not fun. It is quite fun. But I just don't like the fact that we should disguise it as not a primitive instinct. Think about when you are in the middle of having sex, or in the middle of jerking off, or more relevant for you people on the internet, right? You don't really think in the middle of it, like you don't really stop and go, what am I doing? It's just kind of in the flow. Next up for me is fear and hunger. Now, these are things that can, even including the sex example, these are things that can control us more than we can control them, which is a further proof that we're more animal-like than we want to admit. Now, the biggest point I want to make with this is there can be situations where these three things, sex, fear, hunger, they go so far that they kind of really control you more than you can control them. I don't really know how to explain it, but like think about when you're in a theater and the theater starts burning. Do you think all that etiquette, all that civilized manner will stay there? No, panic will arise and fear will take control of your body and you will do whatever you need to survive. The same is in extreme situations where a plane crashes. Do you think all that etiquette and all those manners will stay with you when you are at the very edge of death? Well, no, obviously. So that's why people kill, why they rape, why they do terrible stuff. And that, to me, is just further proof that we're more animal-like than we want to admit. I think the whole point of a human existence is to try as much not to be an animal, but admit that you are. Be humble, try to be the best version of yourself. So, what do you think? Are humans animals? Are other animals comparable to us? Or are we something much, much more? Is the life of a cat any comparable to the life of a human? Let me know in the comments below. And stop jerking off. How about that? See you.